The minority there is accusing the National Petroleum Authority of illegally collecting levies on petroleum products. According to ranking member on the Finance Committee, Kezela Tuforsen, these levies have been reviewed upwards by 200% since the NPP assumed office. We'll hear from him shortly, but first, listen to his colleagues on the Mines and Energy Committee who are demanding a removal of the special petroleum taxes imposed on petroleum products from the 2022 budget. According to ranking member John Jinapor, this would provide some respite for Ghanaians suffering from the hikes in fuel prices. Kwesi Parker Wilson has more.
The view that the special petroleum tax imposed on petroleum products must be suspended in the 2022 budget. This will provide some respite for Ghanaians from the agonizing high cost of fuel at the pumps. Why do we make this claim? If you look at the 2021 budget, the benchmark petroleum price was pegged as $54.75 per barrel. Today, as we speak, the world market price has risen to $85, representing an increment of 55%. So if you take what we projected and what is actually happening, it means that petroleum prices have increased by 55%. As a net exporter of petroleum prices, we have done the computation and we have come to a conclusion that from the initial amount of $800 million that we were projecting to receive, we are likely to hit $1.2 billion by the end of the year. So we are moving from $800 million to $1.2 billion. The special petroleum tax was imposed because of shortage of revenues, especially from exports. And so if today there's a reverse and the exports are reining in all these revenues, it only makes sense that in the 2022 budget, this tax ought to be suspended.
Ranking member on the committee, John Jinapor, who addressed the media, also cautioned Dr. Bawumia, the vice president, against false claims about the state of the Ghanaian city.
The economic management team, under the leadership of Dr. Bawumia, have lost it and must sit up. Indeed, they must be proactive and work with the Bank of Ghana to release forex as and when necessary.
We can now hear from Tuforsen, who is demanding that the NPA halts the collection of the Unified Petroleum Price Fund, bust margin, and the full margin.
In fact, going through the Public Financial Management Act, Section 47, and let me read Section 47. Section 47(1) says, a covered entity, an NPA, the National Petroleum Authority, is a covered entity. A covered entity shall not collect or receive revenue except where the covered entity is authorized by an act of parliament to collect and receive the revenue. Clearly, the National Petroleum Authority is collecting these revenues illegally. Illegally. So they are engaging in an act of an illegality. They are acting with impunity. And we want to serve a notice to the NPA that from today, they should stop collecting the UPPF. They should stop collecting the bust margin and stop collecting the fuel marking margin because it is illegal.
Abdul Kudus is Head of Communications and Corporate Affairs Manager at the National Petroleum Authority. He joins us via Zoom. Thank you very much for joining us. How do you respond to the claims of illegality leveled against you, that is the NPA?
Thank you very much. I seem to be a little confused, pardon me here, because you talked about illegality and then you talked about increase. I don't know whether the illegality is in the increase or the illegality is in the collection of the margins that he so outlined. He spoke about the bust margin. He spoke about the fuel margin. Then he spoke about the UBPF margins.
Exactly.
These are matters of status, okay? And I think that for probably the sake of your viewers, if you refer to LI 2186 passed in 2012. It actually mandates the National Petroleum Authority to collect some of these margins as part of the price build-up. So it is not as though the NPA on its own decided to impose these margins on the price build-up. But in fact, they are part of the statute that was passed in 2012, LI 2186. So I'm not too sure where his issue of illegality is. Is it in the margin or in the increase? I'm not too sure what it is.
He talks about the 200% increase, which he thinks is too much for the ordinary citizen. But then the collection is what he seems to not be comfortable with and says it's an illegality. But what does the 2012 law talk about an increase? Do you need parliamentary approval to increase those margins if you want to?
No. It actually conferred that particular responsibility on the NPA, particularly for the fuel marking and then the UBPF. The post margin is not something that is primarily the determinant of an NPA. But the fuel marking, the UPPF, have been properly defined the reasons for which they should be collected. Okay, so the fuel marking basically is supposed to work around the adulteration and to ensure that what is actually sold at the pump is safer for the consumption of the consumer. Then the UBPF is virtually supposed to work around the transport cost so that wherever you are buying fuel at is the same, irrespective of the location. So these are things that the airline actually mandates the NPA. And like I said, it is something that was passed in Parliament. I'm not too sure. I believe at that time, Honorable Atufosun was there. Maybe we would have to find out from him again what exactly is his issue. If it is in the quantum that he's talking about, it has actually been revised regularly from the day of its operation. So it is not as if it has gone up for the first time. Like I said, it is supposed to do certain issues that is supposed to really cure. So if it is supposed to work out for the quality of fuel, it takes markets that is used in doing that. So when the prices of those markets are going up, obviously there will be a variation in the percentage in the price build up from the day of its inception to now.
Very well.
So if it is about the legality of the collection, it is actually mandated by Parliament, and NPA is within its right to do this particular collection. And
once I have you, Kudus, let me just find out about the levies that were taken off for the next 2 months based on the NPA's advice to the ministry. Now Parliament has resumed. How soon can we expect that these charges are passed and then effected by the NPA for reflection at the pump?
Okay, so if you refer to our release that we did the first time the issue was actually communicated to the public, yes. In our second but last paragraph, we actually referred to the Ministries of Energy and Finance working to get the legislative processes for us to implement this particular command by government. We've since been given that particular go-ahead, and from 1st November, the component of that levy will not form part of the price build-up, at least for 2 months as directed by government. And
so from the 1st of November, if I go to the pump, I should see a reflection, which I told should be about 16 pesos reduction in the price of fuel per litre.
Holding every other thing constant.
Thank you very much. That's Abdul Kudus. He's the head of communications and corporate affairs at the National Petroleum Authority.